Okay, dear students, now we are going to read a passage and I am going to apply different techniques and strategies, and particularly the type of reading which we are going to do in the reading of that passage. For example, I will read the passage loudly and then I will do a kind of intensive reading of the passage later, and we will answer the questions given at the end of the passage. Graveyard of the Atlantic. At 2 p.m. on December 5th, 1945, 5 Navy bombers took off in perfect flying weather from the Naval Air Station at Fort Lauderdale, Florida, on a routine training mission over the Atlantic Ocean. Less than 2 hours later, the flight commander radioed that he was completely lost. Then there was silence. A rescue plane was sent to search for the missing aircraft, and it too disappeared. In all, 6 planes and 27 men vanished that day without a trace. Despite one of history's most extensive search efforts involving more than 300 planes and dozens of ships, the Navy was unable to discover any floating wreckage or telltale oil slick. This is just one of the many chilling stories told by the Bermuda Triangle, a mysterious area of the Atlantic Ocean, roughly stretching south from Bermuda to Florida coast and Puerto Rico. During the past 30 years, the triangle has claimed the lives of some 1,000 seamen and pilots. Among sailors, it is known variously as the Triangle of Death, the Hoodoo Sea, and the Graveyard of the Atlantic, because of the mysterious calms, water spouts, and sudden storms that have bothered the seafarers in its water. When he entered this stretch of the Atlantic, Christopher Columbus noticed curious glowing streaks of white water. The mysterious patches of light and foam are still visible today, and so bright that they have been seen by the US astronauts from outer space. In recent months, the triangle has aroused the considerable public interest through 3 hot-selling books, a television documentary narrated by horror master Vincent Price, and a special exposition at the Library of Congress. None of these investigations has produced convincing answers to the mystery of the triangle, but there is no shortage of interesting theories. Some scientists and popular authors go so far as to suggest that the triangle is the hunting ground of extraterrestrial beings in search of human specimens for their cosmic zoos. Whatever the truth may be, the planes and ships disappeared in the triangle with eerie regularity. On July 3, 1947, a US Army C-54 Superfort disappeared 100 miles off Bermuda without broadcasting any word of difficulty. An immediate search over 100,000 square miles of sea failed to turn up a single piece of wreckage. On January 30, 1948, a Tudor 4th British airliner, the Star Tiger, vanished over the triangle with 31 passengers and crew aboard. A year later, the Star Tiger's sister plane, the Star Ariel, disappeared en route to Jamaica. 72 search planes plus dozens of ships failed to turn up any sign of the missing aircraft. One of the largest ships claimed by the mysterious triangle was the USS Cyclops, a 500-foot coaling ship that disappeared on March 1918. Investigations revealed no evidence of foul weather, no messages for help, no wreckage, and no sign of the 309 men aboard. Stranger yet are the numerous ghost ships that have been found floating crewless within the triangle. On one weird occasion in 1881, the cargo ship Ellen Austin discovered a schooner, sails flapping in the wind, a full cargo of mahogany intact, but no sign of human life. The captain of Ellen Austin installed a new crew to sail it, but 2 days later, during a rough storm, the two ships temporarily lost sight of each other. When the captain again boarded the schooner, he found his crew had disappeared. After a second crew was assigned, the ship was the ship was again lost in a fog bank. This time, no trace of the schooner or the crew was ever found. Officially, the US Navy doesn't recognize the triangle as a danger zone, and the US Coast Guard is convinced that the majority of disappearances in the triangle can be attributed to area's unique environmental features. These include the swift Gulf Stream current, the unexplored underwater canyons of the Atlantic, and the often violent weather patterns within the mystery zone. Then, too, the triangle is one of only two places on Earth where a compass needle points to true north than magnetic north. The other is the Devil's Sea, an equally treacherous zone in the Pacific, southeast of Japan. Thus, a navigator who does not remember this may find himself well off course. There are mysterious and strange things going on out there, admits Richard Winner, author of The Devil's Triangle, a paperback that has sold 500,000 copies since its publication 3 months ago. But I believe that all the answers lie in human error, mechanical malfunctions, freak weather, or magnetic abnormalities. Officials of the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration are not so certain. Despite efforts by the US Air Force, Navy, and Coast Guard, NOAA reports no reasonable explanations to date have been made for the vanishings. Because of these uncertainties, private investigations have sought more fanciful explanations. John Welleck Spencer, author of Limbo of the Lost, a paperback that has sold 1.5 million copies in the past 15 months, argues that beings from the outer space have established a highly advanced civilization in the unexplored depths of the Atlantic inside the triangle. There, he believes most of the missing vessels and their crews may still be on display for study of these higher intelligences. It sounds weird, Spencer admits, until you realize that it's the only explanation that covers all the facts. These and other theories are all examined in Charles Bullett's current volume, The Bermuda Triangle, which has climbed onto the bestseller list less than 3 months after publication. A Yale graduate with a fascination of Atlantis, the legendary lost continent, Bullett's expands upon the theory that a giant solar crystal which once supplied power for Atlantis lies on the ocean floor. Periodically, he theorizes passing ships and planes trigger the crystal, which confuses their instruments and sucks them into the impassable deep. To test such theories, a parapsychological institute called the ISIS Center for Research and Study of Esoteric Arts, based in Silver Springs, Maryland, is planning to take 300 psychics and scientists on a cruise into the triangle next June. The researchers hope to make contact with whatever higher intelligences may lie under the sea. A similar expedition into the Devil's Sea was made by a group of Japanese scientists in 1955. Nothing has been heard of them since. Well, dear students, now as I have read the passage loudly, and now we are going to apply certain other, I'm going to do a kind of reading which is called intensive reading of this passage. And as we studied in intensive reading, that it is particularly the reading which is for academic purposes, where you have to go through the material and you have to read the passage or the text carefully, and you can point out certain grammatical aspects of the text. You can point out the structure, the tenses which are used in that passage, and you can point out the meanings of some difficult words. So I'm going to read the passage and see that how a kind of we can indulge in ourselves, we can indulge ourselves in a kind of intensive reading of the text. So, the title of the passage, for example, is Graveyard of the Atlantic. So, at once, there appears a kind of idea in your mind with the word graveyard and the word Atlantic. So, graveyard, as it refers to the place where the, dead bodies are buried, particularly in, and Atlantic is a kind of ocean, which is one of the oceans, a very big ocean, particularly Atlantic. So you might have heard about it. So you can think about it, that how a kind of it can be, there can be a graveyard in the Atlantic. So you can think about different possibilities. For example, you can think about maybe there was a graveyard under the Atlantic in the deep canyons, earlier, and with the passage of time it disappeared because of the movements of plates. So that can be one, assumption. Or you can also reflect on this title of the passage, like maybe it's the kind of area where a number of people they were lost, area in the sea where a number of people lost. So now if you look at the passage, that as it goes, at 2 p.m. on December 5th, 1945, five Navy bombers took off in perfect flying weather. So Navy bombers are the fighter planes, particularly of the US Navy. So they were in the perfect flying weather from the Naval Air Station at Fort Lauderdale, FLA. FLA it stands for Florida. So there is a state. It's a kind of acronym for the state of America, which is called Florida. So this incident happened near Florida, and on a routine training mission over the Atlantic Ocean. So they were going over the Atlantic Ocean, and they were on a routine training mission. Less than 2 hours later, the flight commander radioed means he sent the signals, particularly that, and his message was that he was completely lost. And then there was silence. A rescue plane was sent to search for the missing aircraft, and it too disappeared. Disappeared means vanished. In all, 6 planes and 27 men vanished that day without a trace. And despite one of history's most extensive research efforts, extensive mean a kind of thorough research efforts involving more than 300 planes and dozens of ships, the Navy was unable to discover any floating wreckage. Floating obviously is something which comes at the surface of the water, so they couldn't find any floating wreckage. And wreckage means the destroyed parts of the ships or planes or some machine, particularly, they can be called as wreckage. So they couldn't find any sign of floating wreckage or a telltale oil slick. Some people, they told the stories of the oil slick, that at the surface of the water the layer of oil was visible, but it was just a telltale. I mean, there was no truth behind it, so they couldn't find any oil slick floating on the surface of the water. So next we move to the next passage. This is one of many chilling stories. Chilling refers to the kind of thrilling stories, particularly told of Bermuda Triangle. So Bermuda is the area which is in the form of a triangle, and you can say that it's a stretch of water in the Atlantic Ocean where it makes a kind of triangle. It is the form of a triangle, and it is the area which is called as Bermuda, and it is called Bermuda Triangle, a mysterious area Mysterious means something strange, weird, or something, supernatural area of Atlantic Ocean, roughly stretching south from Bermuda to Florida coast and Puerto Rico. So now the writer gives us the information related to the location of Bermuda Triangle. So it stretches from south, it stretches from south from Bermuda to Florida coast and Puerto Rico. And during the past 30 years, the triangle has claimed the lives of some 1000 seamen. Claimed here, has claimed the lives. It means that almost 1000 seamen, or the sailors particularly in the sea, they lost their lives. So claimed means they lost their lives there. Among sailors, it is known variously. So there are different names for Bermuda Triangle. Some of the sailers, they call it the Triangle of Death, the Hoodoo Sea, and the Graveyard of the Atlantic. So all these are different names because of the mysterious calms. Mysterious, again, some strange calms or some supernatural calms or peaceful environment sometime is there. Then there are the water spouts. Water spouts are circulating columns of water, particularly like whirlwind. So they were also visible or seen by different people who were traveling in that area. And sudden storms that have bothered the seafarers. That have bothered means to disturb the seafarers. Seafarers means sailors here in its water. When he entered the stretch of Atlantic, Christopher Columbus noted curious glowing streaks of white water. So Christopher Columbus, you are familiar with the name, who discovered America. So when he was going through that area, he noted curious streaks of, curious means again strange type of streaks of white water, particularly visible, and the mysterious patches of light and foam are still visible today. And such type of mysterious patches of light and foam which are visible on the surface of the sea, even from the outer space or even from the space by the US astronauts, are still visible today, and so bright that they have been seen by the US astronauts from the outer space. So they have seen these types of unusual things, particularly located in that triangle from the space. In recent months, the triangle has aroused the considerable public interest. Aroused refers to that it has attracted the attention of the people, and considerable public interest, that a number of people, it has attracted the attention of a number of people, and because of the three hot selling books, a television documentary narrated by horror master Vincent Price, and a special exposition at the Library of Congress. And there was a special exposition related to Bermuda Triangle, in which the documentary was shown particularly, and they all these things, they had attracted the attention of the general public, or it has captured the interest of general public to know about this area. None of these investigations has produced convincing answers, and you can see here none of these investigations has produced a convincing answers to the mystery of the triangle. Still it is the mystery according to the passage, right? But there is no shortage of interesting theories. But then he says that there is no shortage of interesting theories. So there are different people, and they have given different theories particularly related to that triangle. Some scientists and popular authors go so far as to suggest that the triangle is the hunting ground of extraterrestrial beings. Extraterrestrial refers to the creatures from the outer space, or you can call them as aliens, which were seen by the people, or they say that the triangle is the hunting ground where they hunt, particularly maybe they are hunting the human beings over there, and in search of human specimens. As you know, it is written that they want to get the specimens of humans so that they may display these specimens in their cosmic zoos, zoos which they have created in the outer space. Next, if you look at this next reading passage, whatever the truth may be, the planes and ships disappeared in the triangle with eerie regularity. So the planes and ships, they have disappeared in the triangle with eerie regularity. Eerie regularity means with a strange kind of regularity. On 3rd July 1947, US Navy, US Army C-54 Superfort is the title of the aircraft, and it disappeared 100 miles of Bermuda without broadcasting any word of difficulty. Then there is an immediate search for over 100,000 square miles of sea, failed to turn up a single piece of wreckage, and they could not find a single piece of wreckage. On January 30th, 1948, Tudor 4th British airliner. So it was the airliner, and its name was Star Tiger. The Star Tiger vanished. Vanished means disappeared over the triangle with 31 passengers, and there were approximately 31 passengers and the staff of that ship, the aircraft that was traveling in that aircraft. So a year later, the Star Tiger's sister plane, the Star Ariel, disappeared en route to Jamaica. So a similar kind of plane, and it was called a sister plane of Star Tiger, such as Star Ariel, and it too disappeared, and it was going to Jamaica. And route to Jamaica means that it was going towards Jamaica. Jamaica is a Caribbean island particularly, and 72 search planes plus dozens of ships failed to turn up any sign of missing aircraft. So 72 search planes were sent to see or to discover the missing aircraft, but they all failed to turn up, failed to bring back any sign of the missing aircraft. So they could not find any wreckage of that missing aircraft. Then the next passage, on the largest ships claimed by the mysterious triangle was the USS Cyclops. So one of the largest ships, it was one of the largest ships claimed by the mysterious triangle. Again, a kind of mysterious, supernatural, something weird, right? So you have got different synonyms for the word mysterious, and it was mysterious triangle was the USS Cyclops. It was a ship this time, and a 500-foot coaling ship. So it was carrying coal, and it was 500 feet long, that disappeared on March 4th, 1918. So you see, this ship disappeared in 1918. So the disappearances, it means, or the vanishings, they have been going since long. Investigations revealed no sign of foul weather, no messages for help, no wreckage, and no sign of 309 men aboard. So they couldn't find any sign of 309 men who were traveling in that ship. Stranger yet are the numerous means a lot of ghost ships that have been found floating crewless. Crewless, again, it means that there were no crews, no staff, those who were involved in sailing the ship. So they were just floating in the triangle, but they were having no sign of human life. So on one weird occasion, on one strange occasion particularly, or a supernatural occasion, and it happened in 1881. In 1881. So you see that disappearances have been going on continuously since long. So that is perhaps the oldest date, 1881. The cargo ship Ellen Austin, this time a cargo ship Ellen Austin discovered a schooner. So that ship, cargo ship means that it was loaded with different types of goods or cargo which it was carrying, and it discovered a schooner. Then it discovered a small ship, particularly it was driven by the flaps. A schooner is called a small ship which is driven by the flaps. So sails flapping, and its sails were flapping in the wind, a full cargo of mahogany intact, and it was full of a specific kind of expensive wood which is called mahogany, and it was full of that kind of material, but no sign of human life. But they couldn't find any human being particularly boarding on that ship. The captain of Ellen Austin installed a new crew to sail it, but 2 days later, during a rough storm, the two ships temporarily lost sight of each other when the captain again boarded the schooner, and he found his crew had disappeared. After a second crew was assigned, a second crew was installed. Assigned means it was installed, and the ship was again lost in the fog bank. And because of the fog, thick fog, they lost the sight of each other. And this time, no trace of schooner or crew was ever found. And when they couldn't find any sign of that schooner, it too disappeared with a kind of eerie regularity. As we have noticed that a number of ships and planes disappeared in the triangle. Next, moving to the next passage. Officially, the US Navy does not recognize the triangle as a danger zone, but on the other hand, if we find that the US Navy, it does not recognize the triangle as a danger zone, and the US Coast Guard is convinced that the majority of disappearances in the triangle can be attributed to the area's unique environmental features. So they say that these a number of mishappenings, or you can say that the loss of lives, it happened because of the unique environmental features of the weather, particularly over there or in that stretch of water which is called as triangle or Bermuda Triangle. These includes these unique environmental features. They include the swift Gulf Stream current, so a kind of fast moving Gulf Stream current, the wave particularly, and the unexplored underwater canyons. And there were some unexplored means which were not visited, and they were the underwater canyons. Canyons are, you can say that the ditches, just like the valleys as they are visible on the surface of the earth, they are also there sometime inside the earth or under the water particularly. So they are called as canyons. So deep trenches can be called as canyon, and these happened because of the movements of the plates then of the Atlantic, and the often violent weather patterns within the mystery zone. And you can also point out certain weather patterns in that mystery zone. Then too, the triangle is one of the two places of earth where a compass needle points to the true north, then magnetic north. Then a very important fact about the, you can say, triangle is that in the triangle, the compass needle particularly, it points to the true north instead of pointing to the magnetic north. So this was a kind of abnormality particularly which happens when the seafarers, they are traveling in that area. So they actually they lost their direction, and this is how they were lost within the sea. The other is the Devil's Sea, an equally treacherous zone in the Pacific south of Japan. Thus, a navigator who does not remember this may find himself well off course. So, the navigator means the traveler who is not, or the sailor who is not aware of this fact that in this area the compass needle points to the true north. Then he loses his way, and therefore he is lost in the triangle, particularly well off course. So he is lost there, and as a matter of fact, or consequently, he loses his life also. There are mysterious and strange things going on out there, admits Richard Winner, author of Devil's Triangle. So he admits that there are certain mysterious things or strange things happening in that in that stretch of area which is called Bermuda Triangle, and it has written the book with the title The Devil's Triangle, a paperback that has 500,000 copies since its publication 3 months ago. But I believe that all the answers lie in human error, or malfunctioning, malfunctions, or freak weather, or magnetic abnormalities. So the author believes that the answers of these disappearances or vanishes, they lie in human error sometime. Human error in the form of where the compass needle particularly points to the true north instead of pointing to the magnetic north. So as well as mechanical malfunctions of the machines, particularly it was said that in that area the machines they not perform their function properly. And then you can say that the freak weathers, particularly the strange kind of weathers which are over there, and they have been even these weathers they have been pointed out by the US astronauts from the outer space. So you can include the currents of swift Gulf Stream current, or you can say particularly the water spouts which are also visible, and the foam, but the brightening foam which is also visible on the surface of the water. Then the author believes, the author of that the Devil's Triangle, he believes that all these disappearances or vanishings, they happen because of these facts, these mechanical malfunctionings or freak weather or magnetic abnormalities. The officials of National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration are not so certain, while on the other hand we see that the officials, the other kinds of government officials of America, like they say that the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, they are not so certain about the disappearances. It means that they disagree with the previous, as what is the point of view of US Navy, particularly they disagree with their point of view. So despite efforts by US Air Force, Navy and Coast Guard, NOAA reports no reasonable explanations to date have been made for these vanishings. So they say that there is no reasonable explanation of the vanishings, particularly, or the disappearances related to the Bermuda Triangle. Because of these uncertainties, private investigators, they have sought more fanciful explanations. So they have come up with more fanciful or thrilling explanations of this area. John Welleck Spencer, for example, he is the author of Limbo of the Lost, a paperback that has sold almost 1.5 million copies in the past 15 months, argues that beings from the outer space have established a highly advanced civilization there. So he believes that there are certain extraterrestrial beings who have established a kind of highly advanced civilization, particularly on the bed of the Atlantic Ocean in that area, and he believes that most of the missing vessels and their crews may still be on display for study of these higher intelligences. So they have established some sort of, the same types of cosmic zoos, particularly, or the laboratories where they are doing experiments on human beings. So they have collected the specimens of different human beings and they are doing the experiments on them. So this is a kind of another, a very thrilling story as narrated by this person, Welleck Spencer. Then it sounds weird, Spencer admits, until you realize that it is the only explanation. So it sounds strange, though, he says, but it is the only explanation that covers all the facts. These and other theories are all examined in Charles Burlett's current volume, Bermuda Triangle. So Charles Burlett, he has produced a book or the volume which is called the Bermuda Triangle, and which has climbed onto the bestseller list less than 3 months after publication. And it became so popular that a number of copies were sold just within 3 months, you can see. He was a Yale graduate with a fascination for Atlantis. So he was having extraordinary interest, particularly in Atlantis and the legendary lost continent, and he was particularly interested in that legendary lost continent. Burlett expands upon the theory that a giant solar crystal. So this is one of his explanations which Burlett gives. So he says that a giant solar crystal which was lying over there and which once supplied power for the Atlantis, and it used to supply power to that lost island, lost area that is called Atlantis, lies on the ocean floor, and that lies on the ocean floor. Periodically, he theorizes passing ships and planes trigger the crystal. So he points out that passing ships and planes, they actually trigger the crystal, and because of which the instruments of different ships, particularly, they are confused, as he says, that which confuses their instruments and sucks them into the impossible deep. So that crystal, it sucks them, these ships and planes or whatever the aircrafts which were traveling over there, they were actually sucked by the impassable deep. Impassable means which you are unable to pass, particularly such a kind of depth within the sea which you are unable to pass, impassable deep. So they are sucked, actually all these aircrafts and the ships were sucked by that crystal which is lying on the bed of the ocean, Atlantic Ocean. To test such theories, a parapsychological institute called the ISIS Center for Research and Study of Esoteric Arts. So to test such theories, a parapsychological institute, parapsychological means especially the parapsychology is a discipline in which you deal with the you study the unusual powers of human mind, and that kind of institute it is called as ISIS Center for Research and Study for the Esoteric Arts. And esoteric arts are also such types of arts like metaphysical arts, particularly, which deal with such as you can say telepathy or synopsis. They are the part of esoteric arts studies, and based in Silver Spring. And MD stands for here Maryland. It is also one of the states in America. So it is located in that area, and they are planning to take 300 psychics and scientists. So they are actually planning to take 300 scientists and psychics on the cruise. They want to carry them into the sea journey on the cruise into the triangle, and they want to visit the triangle in the next June. The researchers hope to make contact with whatever the higher intelligences may lie there. So the researchers are interested to contact these higher intelligences, as they have been pointed out, extraterrestrial beings, or there are different names for them, or higher intelligences, or the people from the outer planets somewhere may lie under the sea. Lie under the sea. A similar expedition into the Devil's Sea was made by a group of Japanese scientists. So a similar kind of expedition, you can say, it was carried out by a group of Japanese scientists in 1955, and nothing has been heard of them since. So you see, this is the passage, and I have done a kind of intensive reading of this passage, where I have explained different meanings of different difficult words particularly. And now we can see that the structure of the whole passage, for example, or the tenses which are used in this passage are mostly, that is, written in past tenses, because when he is talking about the past incidents, so he explains it in the past form. Like, for example, we can look at this passage, the very first one, where you can see that the 5 Navy bombers took off. Now took off is a past simple tense, and we use past simple to talk about such activity which happened, such action which happened in the past. Took off in the perfect flying weather. In the same way that less than 2 hours later, the flight commander radioed. Radioed is also, this is the past form of radio. And then you can also observe that a rescue plane was sent, that is the passive voice of past simple tense, was sent to search for the missing aircraft, and it too disappeared. So you can see that in the first whole passage, the writer has narrated an account of incident which happened in the past. So he has used past tense or different forms of past tenses particularly in this passage. Next we move to the next passage, and again he is talking about the facts here. Like, this is just one of the many chilling stories. This is just one of the many chilling stories told by Bermuda Triangle. So it's a mysterious area of Atlantic Ocean stretching from, so here he is giving the detail or the facts. So he has used present simple tense. So you have observed particularly that one of the characteristics of present simple tense is that you can use it for the facts. During the past 30 years, the triangle has claimed the lives of 100,000 seamen. Now here you notice that the writer has used present perfect tense, has claimed. So present perfect tense, as you know, is used for such kind of action which though started in the past but still it is valid. So you can use present perfect for these types of actions. It means that here, that among, as he points out, that the triangle has claimed the lives of 1,000 seamen and pilots. It means that the similar kind of thing can happen in future also. So still it is valid. Has claimed the lives of 1,000 seamen and pilots. Then he says that among sailors it is known variously. So he is talking about the fact here that among sailors it is known variously as the triangle of death or the hoodoo sea. Hoodoo is the word which is associated with some bad luck particularly which happened in the sea, and the graveyard of the Atlantic. And because of the mysterious calms, water spouts and sudden storms that have border the seafarer in its water. And again, you can observe that have bordered, which shows that the writer has used present perfect tense here, and as you know that present perfect tense is used for such type of action which though it started in the past but still it is valid, right? Like the same kind of thing can happen in future also. So you have bothered the seafarers in its water. Then he is using the past tense. So you can see that in throughout the passage he is using present tense just to when he is talking about the facts, and he is using past tense when he is giving an account of some incidents or happenings or vanishings which occurred in that stretch of area which is called Bermuda Triangle. So you can observe the similar types of tenses. For example, none of these investigations has produced convincing answers. He has also used, again, there is the use of present perfect tense here, and it says that none of these investigations has produced any convincing answer to the mystery of the triangle. So this is how we have discussed the text. We studied that in intensive reading is reading, particularly it is called academic reading or the reading in the classroom, where the teacher explains different structures of the tenses, it explains the meanings of difficult words particularly, and a text is thoroughly discussed. Students can, if they indulge in this kind of reading, this is called actually intensive reading, because they are reading the material just from the point of view of exam, because they have to appear in the exam and they have to answer the questions particularly which are given sometime at the end of the passages. So now we are going to see the questions and we are going to locate the answers particularly in the text, and we are going to apply the specific technique which is called scanning, and using scanning how we can point out particular answers in the text. Let's see. So students, now we are going to apply scanning particularly, and we can see the answers of these questions. This is the activity related to true and false. You have to read the statements and you have to point out whether the statements are true or false. We can refer to the passage and different paragraphs where the answers of these statements are located. So look at the first statement. For example, the Bermuda Triangle is an area of Atlantic Ocean where a number of ships and planes have disappeared. Yes. So this is, we have observed that throughout the passage, for example, number of ships and they have disappeared with a kind of strange or varied or eerie regularity actually, and we can see that in the passage, like for example, look at the very first passage, first paragraph, you see in which aircraft it disappeared, 5 Navy bombers, 5 Navy aircrafts, they disappeared. Then if you look at the next passage again, and the third passage particularly, in recent months the triangle has claimed the lives of. So you can see that the disappearances are happening off and on. Then particularly in this passage he has discussed a number of disappearances. Yeah. So whatever the truth may be, the planes and ships disappeared in the passage with eerie regularity. For example, he points out that one aircraft disappeared in 1947. It was July 3rd. Then there were some other disappearances of ships, particularly the aircraft, the Star Tiger, and then it was followed by the Star Ariel, right? So all of them, they disappeared within the triangle. So the answer of first statement is that it is true that Bermuda Triangle is an area of Atlantic Ocean where a number of ships and planes have disappeared. Then if we look at the second statement, the triangle has been a source of mystery for only 30 years. No. So now you can quickly move to the facts related to the years. You can point out the years particularly, and you can point out the oldest dates of the years and what were the latest vanishings. So you can see in the passage, for example, we can see here that the disappearances, they occurred in 1947 and 1948 particularly, and here in this passage again we find the date, that is, it happened in 1945, but there was a passage in which the writer pointed out that some happenings, particularly a kind of disappearances which occurred in 1918 particularly. If you look at this passage, you find that that a large ship claimed by the mysterious triangle was USS Cyclope, which was carrying coal, and it disappeared on March 1918. So it is not the 30 years. And then again in the same paragraph we can see that on one occasion in 1881. So the oldest date is perhaps in the paragraph is 1881. So from 1881 to 1948 or 1950s, these disappearances are continuously going on. So the answer of this question particularly will be like the triangle has been a source of mystery only for 30 years. No. So it is the source of mystery according to the passage more than 30 years, because the oldest date is 1881 and the latest it is approximately 1950s somewhere. Then look at the third statement. In spite of great public interest in the triangle, no theory has yet been suggested to explain the disappearances. So there are a number of theories actually. So the third statement, it goes like, in spite of great public interest in the triangle, no theory has yet been suggested to explain the disappearances. So we have noticed that we read a passage in the text which says that there are a number of theories regarding the disappearances of the passages. So the people say that there are they have established, especially the aliens or the extraterrestrial beings. One of the theories is that they have established some sort of cosmic zoos, particularly in the outer space, right? And so there is no shortage of theories actually. So the answer of this question is in spite of great public interest, no theories has yet been suggested. So this statement is false, because according to the passage a number of theories have been suggested. Then look at the fourth statement. According to the article, important information regarding the disappearances has come from the people who lived through the experiences themselves. So according to the passage, we find that all of them, they lost their lives. So they could not narrate the experience particularly. Those who obviously lost their lives in the sea, and there no traces of the ships and aircrafts were found according to the passage. So how can they narrate the experience, those who have lived through the experience particularly? So the answer of this statement is that it is, according to the passage, important information regarding the disappearances has come from the people who lived through the experiences. So this statement is false, because all of them, they disappeared or vanished or died within that triangle. Then if you look at the fifth statement, the US Navy does not recognize the triangle as a danger zone. Again, yes, it is true, because it is located perhaps in the last passages. I think from the last passage, it is the third one in which the US Navy does not recognize the triangle as a danger zone. Yes, it is true. The statement is true. US Navy does not recognize the triangle as a danger zone. Then if you look at the statement number 6, that although a great deal of publicity has been given to the mystery of the triangle. Officials of US government all agree that natural causes account for the disappearances. It is false. Why? Because in one paragraph there is one institute which is called here it is located, that is called NOAA, the officials of National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. So NOAA, they claim they disagree with actually with the US Navy, and they say that despite efforts of US Air Force, Navy and Coast Guard, NOAA reports no reasonable explanations to the date has been made for the vanishings. So the answer of this statement is wrong or false. Like that the US officials of the US government all agree. Not all the officials of the US government agree with this, with that kind of disappearances which were mentioned by the Navy particularly. Then if you look at the statement number 7, if the team from the SS Center of Research Study of Esoteric Arts is as successful as the team of Japanese scientists was in 1955, the mystery will soon be solved. So this statement is false. Why it is false? Because the Japanese scientists who went for this expedition in 1955, they were also lost within that zone, particularly the dangerous zone which is called Devil's Sea. So if the same thing happens to them, they will also die, in other words, and how the mystery can be solved. So the answer of this statement is that it is false. Then number 8, the US astronauts have also seen the mysterious patches of light and foam from the outer space. Yes. So it was this statement particularly that the US astronauts, they have particularly observed the mysterious patches of light and foam from the outer space. It is particularly located in the beginning of the passage, or you can say that I think in the third passage from the very beginning, in the third paragraph from the very beginning of the passage it is located. So the answer of this statement is true, that US astronauts have seen the mysterious patches of light and foam from the outer space. Yes, now look at the next statement, which is the Devil's Sea is an equally treacherous zone in the Pacific southeast of Japan. Yes, the statement is true, because we read it in the passage that the similar kind of like Bermuda Triangle, the similar kind of area which is located in the Pacific Ocean, it is near the southeast of Japan. Located in the southeast of Japan is Devil's Sea. So the statement is true according to the passage. Then the last one, USS Cyclops was one of the largest aircrafts of the American Air Force. You see, US Cyclops was not the aircraft, it was one of the largest ships, so it was not the aircraft. So the statement is false. So this is how we can point out particularly different locations in the passages, and we can point out the answers, and we can underline the answers within the passage, and this kind of activity can be called as scanning. So you have observed that in this passage I read it I did a kind of intensive reading of this passage. In intensive reading, as it happens that it is the reading for academic purposes, particularly when the students are they are asked to answer the questions located at the end of the passage. So they they have to quickly move to that particular area in the text where the answer is located. So you can employ scanning, and it is a kind of strategy which can help a good reader particularly, and he can point out the location where the answer lies, and this is how you can do the analysis of the whole passage. So I have applied intensive reading. Particularly I have done a kind of loud reading of this passage first of all, and then I was involved in a kind of intensive reading of the passage, because as I pointed out, number of words, difficult words, and their meanings of those words, and I also pointed out the statements, and I employed the technique of scanning particularly, and pointed out the answers of the passage, particularly the statements given at the end of the passage related to whether the statements are true or false, and this is the whole analysis of the passage. Now you can have an activity, like you can particularly point out what are the latest facts related to Bermuda Triangle. So this is a kind of assignment which you can do on your own, and you can submit it particularly in your classroom, Google Classroom, or to your teachers, and you can search for different books, articles published after because this passage is actually taken from a Newsweek, a journal, an American journal, which was published in 1970s. So it is some sort of old information, and now your task is to get the latest information related to Bermuda Triangle, and in written form you can submit it in the form of an assignment to your teachers. That's all. Thank you.